This video walks through how to perform a PV loop. Here's a picture of the ideal settings. To access the PV loop, select Tools and then PV Tool tab. The warning screen tells the user that this cannot be performed in the spontaneous mode. Next, select Settings and you will see 5 options. We want our P start to be at 0, our P top at 40, and our end peep at 0. The ramp speed is at 2 centimeters of water per second. If we choose 3, the maneuver will be faster but less accurate. And finally, we leave our T pause at 0. There's a warning screen that appears once we hit close. The warning tells us that our current peep is different from the peep that we have selected, and if we want to change our peep, we always select no, and then once we're ready, we select Start Maneuver. As you can see on the pressure waveform, the vent starts at a pressure of 0, indicating that the lungs are collapsed, and then it starts delivering 2 centimeters of water per second. Each time it does that, there's a corresponding volume being measured. The vent will reach a top pressure of 40 before exhaling back down to 0 again. This way, we're able to measure a full breath from collapse to overdistension and back to collapse again. Once the maneuver is complete, a PV loop will appear and the vent will begin ventilation again. Let's analyze our loop. Select cursor 1 and move the dot across the bottom waveform until you see an inflection point. This is the lower inflection point. In this example, we're not getting any volume return until a peep of 15. So from a pressure of 0 to 15, there's no volume return, meaning that the lungs are collapsed by the transpulmonary pressure. Next, we'll select cursor 2 and scroll to find the upper inflection point. It's the point where linearity ends. With the increase in pressure, there's a decrease in volume. This is shown by bird peaking. In this example, the upper inflection point is measured at 30. Anything above a pressure of 30 will cause overdistension in this patient. To find the optimal peep, click on the waveform and select the second option. A secondary graph will appear. Select cursor 1 and move the dot to the top of that curve. The top of the curve represents where the optimal peep should be. It is the largest volume change for a given pressure. In our example, the optimal peep is found at 17. At this pressure, there is the largest volume. If we go to a pressure of 18 or 19, you'll start to see the volume decrease. Here is an example of a classic PV loop. In section A, as the pressure is being introduced, we're seeing a small return in volume until we reach the lower inflection point. The lower inflection point represents lung opening. Any pressure below the lower inflection point means that there is atelectasis occurring. Section B represents linearity. As pressure is being delivered, there is a corresponding volume return. Safe ventilation occurs in between the lower and upper inflection points. Finally, section C represents overdistension. As pressure moves past the upper inflection point, the volume return drops off, resulting in a bird peak shape. The upper inflection point is the maximum plateau pressure we should be using to ventilate our patient.